What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favorite books of 2024. To kick it off, I'm going to be going with The Experience of God, Being, Consciousness, and Bliss by David Bentley Hart. This is a book on metaphysics. As flowery as a language sounds for this book, it's a really dense philosophy text. I would not recommend it for anyone who's a beginner in philosophy or who isn't too familiar with philosophical concepts. But if you have an interest in philosophy, religion, you were sort of paying attention to the new atheist movement, that's generally like the audience that this would probably attract. I would recommend it. It talks about how us moderns don't really understand the concept of God, and we sort of abandon this view known as classical theism. We now we now see God as a sort of like a ghostly mechanic, someone who started up this machine we call the universe, and he's just observing it, but he's never like miracles are sort of just like interruptions in the order of that machine. But for the classical theist view, it's more that we are depending on God at every instance for existence. God is existence himself. He is being itself. If you don't really understand what that even means, I would recommend reading the book. But yeah, he also talks about some interesting stuff with philosophy of mind, how he thinks that philosophical naturalism has a lot of problems, and how there's a lot more nuance. We don't have to see the world through the lens of a mechanical philosophy where the universe can only be described by mathematical and physical laws. So it's a really interesting read. I really enjoyed it. It definitely gave me a deeper understanding into like I said, classical theism. So if you're interested in this, I would recommend, if you're new to philosophy, read it along with Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. That's a great source for philosophy. If you have a background, even better. Yeah. For number 4, a lot of people might get pissed at this, but I'm going to be doing Dostoyevsky's Crime and Punishment. The reason I said people probably get pissed is, this is a very highly rated book. People love Crime and Punishment. They love Dostoyevsky. So for the reason he's so low, honestly, I think is because I just read through this book very slowly. I probably could have appreciated the plot more had I just, done it in like 2 weeks. But no, it was sort of over the span of a few months. But yeah, there's a reason this is a classic. It was a good read, but I don't know. I just don't feel like a lot of what it talked about strongly resonated with me. As I said, it's a great story. I enjoyed it, but the other books on this list resonated with me for various of other reasons. It's about a destitute student who sort of thinks he's above moral law and commits a murder, and the guilt of it starts to weigh on him, despite what he thought of himself. Like I said, it's a classic. Highly recommended too. And that's all I'll say for that one. For number 3, I'm going to be going with A Canticle for Leibowitz. This is honestly, I think, one of my favorite fiction novels I've ever read. And the reason is because it resonated like on a personal level with me. I started to become more religious and oriented towards Catholicism. And this book really just hits a lot of the spots I enjoyed about the faith. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world after a nuclear war, and a lot of people sort of blame scientists, people who are educated, for this nuclear apocalypse. So they start burning books, and what this tells the story of is a Catholic monastery preserving the knowledge that they have, and just through generations, as humanity starts to progress back to where they were scientifically before the nuclear apocalypse. It's there's a lot in this book that I enjoyed. Like I said, one of the things that resonated with me was sort of how it kind of reflects Catholic history in a way. After the fall of Rome, it was really the church sort of preserving knowledge in the West, and this kind of just captures that. I also enjoyed how, as like humanity starts to advance more scientifically, you could just see how like the perspective of the church kind of it became more and society became more antagonistic towards the church. And yeah, I just very much enjoyed it. There's just all kinds of snippets within it that made me appreciate it. For number two, it's gonna be Augustine's Confessions. This tells the story of Augustine's conversion to Christianity. It's sort of an autobiography. He talks about how he was searching for wisdom, searching for knowledge, searching for meaning in life. And at first, he sort of finds it in this cult, Manichaeism. At the time, it was a major world religion, but now it's sort of been thrown to the dustbin of history. But he talks about how he didn't really take like Christianity seriously, how he didn't see how it reflected true wisdom in the sense that like perhaps the writings of Cicero would reflect. And as he started to study more Plotinus and different philosophical texts, he started to take it more seriously. He talks about that a lot. There's a lot of interesting, just like general philosophical content in here. He talks about some pretty interesting puzzles with time. So yeah, if you're not religious, I would still recommend reading this book, but if you are religious, I would definitely recommend this one. Finally, for number one, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. I was drawn to Greco-Roman Stoicism a few years ago, and I didn't really have the vocabulary to explain why, at least philosophically. And now what I understand is that I really enjoyed the virtue ethics aspect of it, and sort of this general view that there is like an essence to human nature, and that's directed to certain things, and that we can attain happiness by being virtuous. And that's what really Aristotle talks about. He deep dives into a lot of the virtues. There's a great book about, I think it's actually two books about friendship. And yeah, this is definitely a book I'm going to be rereading for a very long time because there's just so much more you can get out of it after one read. And yeah, that is my top 5 book list for this year. Next year, I'm going to be trying to read even more books. And I hope you guys enjoyed this content, and I will see you later.